begin. Number 1. His father was crushed between two boxcars. On February 20th, 1919, James Thomas Mitchum was working as a railroad switchman at the Charleston Navy Yard in South Carolina. He slipped while coupling two boxcars and was caught between them. He died an hour later at the Navy Yard Hospital. The Charleston Evening Post reported the death that same day. Robert Mitchum was 18 months old. His mother, Anne Harriet Gunderson, was pregnant with their third child. Anne scrambled for work as a linotype operator at the Bridgeport Post in Connecticut. He's shuttling her children between relatives in Connecticut, Delaware, and New York. She remarried in 1927, a British journalist named Hugh Cunningham Morris, but the damage was done. Without a father, young Robert became what every school principal dreaded: brilliant, violent, and ungovernable. He was expelled from schools in Delaware for fighting the principal, and from Heron High School in Manhattan's Hell's Kitchen for general defiance. The brutal irony is this: Mitchum's father died the same way boxcar hobos died, crushed by freight trains. Within 12 years, his teenage son would be riding those same trains across Depression-era America. Number 2, his mother packed his suitcase and sent him into the Great Depression. The mythology says Mitchum ran away from home. The truth, documented in Lee Server's biography, Robert Mitchum, Baby, I Don't Care, is more heartbreaking. His mother packed his suitcase and made him a sandwich for the journey. He was 14 years old. It was 1931, and school had nothing left to teach him. What followed were years of genuine American vagrancy. He rode flatbeds, freight cars, and refrigerated trains across the country. Old-timer hobos taught him how to steal food, panhandle, and dodge railroad bulls. He dug ditches, picked fruit, washed dishes, and worked a Pennsylvania coal mine until claustrophobia nearly broke him. He also boxed professionally, 27 fights that broke his nose and scarred his left eye. That famous heavy-lidded gaze audiences would later mistake for indifference was actually the face of a man who'd been punched for money as a teenager. He told the Saturday Evening Post in 1962, "I learned about the fuzz and the inside of jails. When I was too cold and hungry, I'd check in at the local police station. They'd put me in a cell overnight. These weren't character-building adventures. They were survival, and they happened before he turned 16. Number 3, he escaped a Georgia chain gang under gunfire. In the summer of 1933, 15-year-old Robert Mitchum dropped off a freight train in Savannah, Georgia. He was arrested for vagrancy, charged as a dangerous and suspicious character with no visible means of support, and beaten with a nightstick. The sentence was 180 days on the Chatham County chain gang. The camp sat in Pipemaker Swamp, mosquito-infested and disease-ridden. Prisoners worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week, for one meal a day. The guards fastened leg irons so tight they cut into his flesh, and within days the wounds turned septic, running from heel to knee. Mitchum later described the conditions. "We got 21 to 10. 21 meals a week and 10 cents worth of Bull Durham golden grain. Around him, men were dying of tuberculosis, gangrene, and swamp fever. His escape came on a road detail when guards unfastened the leg irons for shoveling work. Mitchum positioned himself away from the guards, waited for a distraction, and sprinted for a tree line while shots were fired behind him. He hitchhiked to Delaware, where his family had relocated. The leg infection nearly cost him the limb, and he walked on crutches for weeks. But here's the detail that stuns people. When Mitchum returned to Savannah in 1961 to film Cape Fear, he was technically still a fugitive from that chain gang. And director J. Lee Thompson observed that Mitchum had a chip on his shoulder the entire shoot because of what Savannah had done to him as a boy. That simmering rage on screen as Max Cady wasn't entirely acting. Part of it was memory. Number 4, the scandal that should have destroyed him. On the night of August 31st, 1948, 2 LAPD narcotics officers raided a cottage at 8443 Ridpath Drive in Laurel Canyon. Inside, they found Robert Mitchum, then earning $3,000 per week at RKO Pictures, smoking marijuana with 20-year-old actress Lila Leeds and 2 others. The arrest was a setup. Police had Mitchum under surveillance for 8 months, and the house bugged for 5 months. The man who lured Mitchum to the cottage was later identified as the informant and was never tried. Newspapers had been tipped off before the arrest, and reporters were already swarming the station when Mitchum arrived. Mitchum himself later asked, "Why were the newspapers tipped off before I even arrived that a big-name movie star was going to be picked up on marijuana charges that night?" At booking, asked his occupation, Mitchum replied, "Former actor." He was convicted and sentenced to 60 days. He served 1 week in county jail and 43 days at the Sheriff's Honor Farm in Castaic, California. His description of prison became legendary. It's like Palm Springs, but without the riffraff. What was supposed to end his career did the opposite. Howard Hughes, who controlled RKO, rushed a shelved Mitchum film called Rachel and the Stranger into theaters as a test. It became RKO's biggest hit of 1948. Audiences actually applauded when Mitchum appeared on screen. Meanwhile, Lila Leeds received the identical sentence for the identical charge. Her career was destroyed. She never worked in a significant film again, was eventually banished from California, and died in obscurity in 1999. Same arrest, same crime. Studio power and gender determined who survived. On January 31st, 1951, the conviction was officially overturned after investigations revealed the arrest was a setup. Mitchum never publicized it. Number 5. The masterpiece nobody wanted. In 1955, Charles Laughton directed Robert Mitchum in The Night of the Hunter, a film about a murderous preacher who terrorizes 2 children to find their dead father's hidden money. Mitchum played Reverend Harry Powell, with the words "love" and "hate" tattooed across his knuckles. It is now ranked the 25th greatest film ever made by Sight and Sound's 2022 poll. When it was released, it was a catastrophe. The budget was around $795,000, and it earned roughly $300,000 in domestic rentals. Critics dismissed it, and audiences stayed away. The failure so devastated Charles Laughton that he never directed another film. He had already purchased the rights to Norman Mailer's The Naked and the Dead for his second project. He abandoned it. He died in 1962 without directing again. But here's what contradicts everything about Mitchum's "I don't care" persona. He frequently stated over the years that it was his best performance, and Laughton was his best director. And because Laughton had a personal aversion to children, Mitchum actually directed his child co-stars, Billy Chapin and Sally Jane Bruce, for the entire shoot. The man who told the world he was lazy and indifferent quietly took over directing duties to save the film. Laughton offered perhaps the most revealing assessment anyone ever gave of Mitchum. "Bob is one of the best actors in the world. He'd make the best Macbeth of any actor living. All his tough talk is a blind, you know. He's a literate, gracious, kind man with wonderful manners. He speaks beautifully when he wants to." The love and hate knuckle tattoos became one of cinema's most iconic images, referenced in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing and countless other works. The film that nobody wanted is now considered one of the greatest achievements in American cinema. Number 6. The Secret Poet. This is the revelation that most dramatically shatters Mitchum's public image. The man who told the world he didn't care about anything was a published poet at age 9. At 7, he began writing poetry. At 9, his work appeared in the local newspaper, and he was interviewed and photographed. He later reflected on the experience. "This small spotlight on our material impoverishment inspired in me an introspection ever at odds with my desire for expression." The literary output never stopped. He wrote children's plays performed by the Players Guild of Long Beach. He wrote song lyrics for his sister Julie's nightclub performances. And in 1939, at the age of 22, he wrote and composed an oratorio that was produced by Orson Welles at the Hollywood Bowl as a benefit for Jewish refugees. He had no formal education past early high school, and he was collaborating with the most celebrated theatrical mind in America. He possessed a photographic memory inherited from his mother. He could glance at a page and memorize all dialogue instantly, which is why he rarely rehearsed. He would mark scripts with NAR, meaning no action required, indicating he could convey the meaning with a look rather than words. He devoured Shakespeare, Wordsworth, and Joseph Conrad as a teenager in Hell's Kitchen tenements. Shirley MacLaine, who knew him well, told Variety, "He was not the strutting he-man everyone thought. He was the intellectual and had a fantastic mind, and that's what attracted me." Frank Sinatra said Mitchum knew more about music, from Bach to Brubeck, than anyone he'd ever met. Mitchum's response just shows how much Sinatra knows about music. The man who claimed acting was nothing more than making faces and speaking someone else's lines, wrote poetry his entire life, and composed music before he ever stepped in front of a camera. Number 7. He beat a world-ranked heavyweight boxer in a bar fight. On November 7, 1951, during the filming of 1 Minute to Zero in Colorado Springs, Mitchum was drinking at the Red Fox Lounge in the Alamo Hotel when a soldier named Private Bernard Reynolds started a fight with a lieutenant colonel. Mitchum grabbed Reynolds by the collar. Reynolds swung at him. Mitchum ducked the punch, slammed Reynolds' head against a table, and kicked him in the face. The story made national headlines because Bernard Reynolds turned out to be a ranked heavyweight boxer with 19 knockouts, ranked 10th in the world. Mitchum's private account, recorded in Lee Server's biography, was characteristically blunt. It wasn't the Marquis of Queensberry rules. When you mess with an ape, be ready to go the whole route. His public statement was more diplomatic. An actor is always a target for the belligerent type who thinks movie he-men are softies. I never start a fight, but I can always finish one. This wasn't Hollywood bravado. Mitchum's 27 professional boxing matches, his years surviving hobo camps and chain gangs, and his daily fistfights in Hell's Kitchen had produced genuine physical danger in a 6'1", 185-pound frame. He once flattened 3 U.S. sailors in a Tobago bar. On the set of Blood Alley in 1955, he allegedly threw a crew member into San Francisco Bay, a charge he denied, but which got him fired and replaced by John Wayne. The Sweet Science, a respected boxing publication, concluded simply, Bob Mitchum never really had to act the tough guy. He was the real deal. Number 8. He turned down Patton and Dirty Harry on moral principle. This fact stuns people who assume Mitchum took any role that paid. He refused 2 of the most iconic parts in American cinema history, and his reasoning reveals a moral seriousness completely at odds with his public image. He said, "Not that I'm a complete whore, understand? There are movies I won't do for any amount. I turned down Patton, and I turned down Dirty Harry. Movies that piss on the world. If I've got $5 in my pocket, I don't need to make money that way." For Patton, he specifically recommended George C. Scott for the role, arguing that a passionate actor was needed where his own detachment would reduce the film. Scott won the Academy Award. For Dirty Harry, Mitchum objected to the film's vigilante ethos. Clint Eastwood took the role and built a franchise. He also turned down The Defiant Ones in 1958, not for the reason people assume, but because, as an actual chain gang veteran, he found the premise unrealistic. The man who told the world he didn't care about anything turned down roles because he cared about what stories said about the world. These refusals demolish the myth of indifference. He simply refused to let anyone see how much he cared. Number 9. The tough guy who recorded a Calypso album. In 1956, while filming Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison in Trinidad and Tobago, Mitchum fell in love with Calypso music. He spent his off hours in local bars and street performances, encountering artists like Lord Melody and Mighty Sparrow. He pitched an album to Capitol Records. In March 1957, he recorded Calypso, Is Like So, a 14-track album of Caribbean songs. It flopped commercially, but retrospective critics have called it a far more authentic display of Calypso music than Harry Belafonte's famous album. The music career didn't stop there. The Ballad of Thunder Road, which he co-wrote, charted on Billboard's Top 100 for 21 weeks. His 1967 Nashville album produced the country single Little Old Wine Drinker Me, which reached number 9 on the Billboard Country chart and was later covered by Dean Martin. He was nominated for an Academy of Country Music Award for Most Promising Male Vocalist in 1968. He was 50 years old. The film Thunder Road itself which Mitchum wrote, produced, and starred in alongside his 16-year-old son James, became a drive-in phenomenon that played continuously in Southern theaters for decades and directly inspired the Dukes of Hazzard. Bruce Springsteen named his iconic song Thunder Road after seeing the film's theatrical poster. A Calypso album, a Billboard country hit, and a song that inspired Bruce Springsteen, from the man who claimed he had no talent worth discussing. Number 10, 57 Years, a note saying, later, and ashes scattered at sea. Robert Mitchum met 14-year-old Dorothy Clements Spence in the fall of 1933 while recovering from his chain gang leg injuries in Delaware. He was 16, walking on crutches, a fugitive. She recalled, "He never thought of paying a compliment like the other boys. Yet every other boy I knew was so dull by comparison." His response was more direct. "Stick with me, kid, and you'll be farting through silk." They married on March the 16th, 1940, in what he described as the cabbage-scented kitchen of a Methodist parson in Dover, Delaware. They stayed married for 57 years. It was not a perfect marriage. There were documented affairs, including a 3-year relationship with Shirley MacLaine in the early 1960s. Dorothy endured it. Mitchum ended the affair because, as one biographer noted, he couldn't envision life without Dorothy. Late in life, he admitted he'd been a poor husband, but said, "There's not one of them, and I've met the best of them, worth lighting a candle for alongside her." They had 3 children, James, Christopher, and Patrine. Together, they formed DRM Productions, producing films, including Thunder Road. Robert Mitchum died at 5 in the morning on July 1st, 1997, in his Santa Barbara home. Lung cancer and emphysema. He was 79 years old, and Dorothy was at his side. His son Chris said simply, "He had a good ride." James Stewart died the very next day. At Mitchum's strict insistence, no memorial service was held. His body was cremated, and on July 6, 1997, his ashes were scattered at sea off Santa Barbara by Dorothy and longtime friend Jane Russell. A cenotaph was placed at Oddfellows Cemetery in Camden, Delaware, near where he first met Dorothy 64 years earlier. Dorothy died on April 12, 2014, at 94. Her ashes were scattered at sea in the same location, in hope, her family said, that they would find each other again. The man who said, "When I drop dead and they rush to the drawer, there's going to be nothing in it but a note saying later," left behind something far more than a note. He left behind 120 films, a marriage that lasted 57 years, and a reputation so carefully constructed as a fraud that almost nobody saw the real man underneath. 10 moments. A father crushed between 2 boxcars, a mother who packed her son's suitcase and sent him into the Depression, a chain gang escape under gunfire at 15, a drug arrest that should have ended everything, a masterpiece nobody wanted, a published poet hiding behind a stone face, a bar fight with a world-ranked heavyweight, turning down 2 of cinema's greatest roles on principle, a Calypso album and a country music hit, and 57 years with the girl he met while walking on crutches. Robert Mitchum spent his entire career building a disguise. He hid his intelligence behind laziness, his sensitivity behind indifference, his poetry behind one-liners, his moral convictions behind shrugs. The sleepy-eyed tough guy was a fortress designed to protect everything vulnerable inside. Howard Hawks confronted him on set once. "You pretend not to care, but you really work very hard." Mitchum's reply, "Don't tell anybody." Hollywood sold him as the man who didn't give a damn. The truth was more complicated and far more human. If you grew up watching Cape Fear or The Night of the Hunter or Out of the Past, you knew the face. Now you know the man behind it. Which moment surprised you the most? The poetry at age 9? The chain gang escape? The 57-year marriage? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories about real people who lived impossible lives. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. It truly helps us grow. Thanks for watching.